Welcome to the Calder Farmstead.
Now the Ice Hawks back out to center in transition. Carlson with Quinville 2-on-1. Right with Carlson, Quinville scores!
Here's a chance for Perrin. Fighting scores! Off the face-off! Up it's Eminger. Pulled back to Werenski. Has it. Shoots one. Bounces off a man. 5 seconds left. Werenski. Another jam on the shot. Turning and firing. They go! Score! Monsters score! Now they catch each other and they both go right over the top. Matching rights to one another. McDermott gets the helmet off of Cassie.
And now, with 9 minutes gone in overtime, the Bears breaking out right side with Bear. Looks like cutting to the net. Bear will score!
And here are your hosts, Cece and Sean.
Hello and greetings from the mile-high city of Denver, Colorado.
And Ajax, Ontario.
All right. Welcome to the Calder Farmstead podcast, episode number 9. I'm running out of fingers right quick. But it's Friday, February 5th, 2021, that you're watching this, hopefully. If you were hoping for a podcast featuring tips on cattle market bidding, we are not going to be much help. This is an American Hockey League podcast, and my name is CC Hockley.
And I'm Sean O'Brien.
And as always, we thank you all for tuning in with us.
And I am so excited. It's hockey day. We're finally here. We get to have AHL hockey. But if you're new to hearing CC and I talk about hockey, we're going to preview some teams in the upcoming AHL season for you. We both watch a lot of AHL games, and we're going to talk about what we see when we watch that film, as well as use some advanced stats to help us break that down. If that's new to you, you may want to head over to our podcast feed or YouTube channel, wherever you're listening to us from, and check out episode 0. It's a 20-minute primer on some of the stats we're going to be talking about. So if some of the more advanced hockey stats terms are new to you, go check that out so you'll be able to better pick up what we're putting down. I promise it isn't that nerdy or technical. It's only 20 minutes. I'm sure you've wasted 20 minutes today looking at, Twitter or something. So go watch that for 20 minutes and you might just learn something. That being said, let's get to business. We have 2 teams to preview today that do not like each other. Hershey versus Wilkes-Barre Scranton, Chocolate versus Cole, Trogs versus Lion, The Office versus Hershey Park, Sheets versus, still mostly Sheets. Let's start with Hershey.
Yeah, like Sean was saying, Hershey and Wilkes-Barre Scranton, the final 4 teams that are scheduled to begin their season this weekend. The next 2, San Jose and Tucson, that'll be our last episode until the Canadian division can get it together and take care of that. So, Hershey Bears, head coach Spencer Carberry, entering his 3rd season with the club. 1920 regular season record was 37-18-3-4. That was good for 2nd place in the Atlantic Division last year. Their affiliation for 2021 has been the same for a good fair amount of time. Washington Capitals in the NHL and the South Carolina Stingrays in the ECHL. Games scheduled 36. This is probably the craziest 36 games scheduled in the AHL, in my opinion, because it's only 3 opponents and all of them are double-digit games. Binghamton Devils, the Bears are playing 12 times. The Lehigh Valley Phantoms, the Bears are playing 14 times. And, of course, the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins, Hershey will be playing 10 times. So get ready for a lot of familiar opponents and a lot of animosity being dredged up because familiarity breeds contempt. I'm here for the contempt in Hershey.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a good thing that Hershey and Wilkes-Barre Scranton and Lehigh Valley don't have a long and storied history of rivalry. That would just make these games insane.
It really would. I mean, there could be fights. There could be, just maybe major match penalties. I mean, it could be bad.
Well, let's get talking about this forward group here. And
Sure.
This was a forward group that was shaping up to be a fun squad this season. But then the taxi squad rain cloud came and ruined it all. Goodbye to Daniels, Carr, and Sprong, our sweet boy Brian Pino, Philip Maillet, all, in Hershey or in DC. Pinho, Sprong, and Carr made the jump to the show out of camp, so I don't think they'll be back anytime soon. But let's talk who is left, though. Let's start with the captain, the bionic man himself, Matt Molson. I'm serious. Matt Molson should come out with an anti-aging product line after he retires. People would buy that stuff. Shooting talent and hockey IQ age as well. Matt Molson has both. Those are things that are going to treat him well this season, along with the young gun coming in, Connor McMichael, has great hands and top-notch hockey IQ. He uses his smarts well to create passing lanes, and he holds up under pressure. He doesn't skate that well, but that's a fixable problem. But the selling point here, though, is his shooting talent. His shot is Liam Neeson, and the net is a kidnapper. He's going to find it no matter where it is. Enjoy him, Hershey. I don't think he's going to be here too long. Garrett Pilon's a very good skater that has the skill and hockey IQ to make the score sheet, but his A game just isn't there every night, and that lack of consistency is what keeps him from being a top-line producer in the AHL. Joe Snively has a good compete level that will forever endear him to his coaches, and while his skating is good, it's not good enough given his size. I do like his offensive talent and vision, but I don't think he's ready to carry a line and will need some teammates like McMichael or Molson to drive the play. Shane Gersich has good speed, but his puck skills are average at best. He's a good bottom six contributor and can be a disruptive forechecker, but not much more. He occasionally flashes a great move or a highlight reel play, but they're few and far between. Damian Riet has a good shot and a pretty good hockey IQ and average puck skills, but his skating, it really doesn't do him any favors. Brett Leeson has the hockey IQ and work ethic to be an effective AHL forward, but his skating seems to be at its peak, though, which kind of concerns me, as it's good enough to get by, but I don't think it's going to do him any favors. Still, I think he has a chance to make a step forward this year in what is likely to be a more consistent amount of ice time this season. Axelby Jonsson-Fallaby can absolutely skate, but his puck skills and vision need work. Like Gleason, I think a more consistent amount of ice time and line mates may do him some good this season, but in a sprint to the finish that is absolutely going to be 2021 in the AHL, I could see how he could not get settled. I don't see much more from Cody Clark than an okay third liner. He's got average skill and has grit to his game, but just doesn't have anything that moves the needle for me. Caleb Herbert has put out some outstanding seasons in ECHL, but when I watch some of his film, I don't think a lot of it transfers to the AHL. He maneuvers around ECHL level players and ECHL level play rather than overpowers defensemen and goalies with superior skill. Overall, this group isn't too bad, but some returning faces from the Caps would help out a lot. But on the back end, there's a little bit of a different story. Cece, talk to me about defensemen.
Let me talk blue liners to ya. Lucas Johansson skates well and can lead transition out of his end because of it. He maintains good gap control defending the rush and is an above average defender in his own zone. His vision and puck skills aren't anything to write home about, though, and I don't think he should be on any power play units to start the season. Cameron Schilling, he's an interesting skater. He lacks top speed but has great edge work, and I love his willingness to jump up and join the rush as a fourth forward. Schilling is aggressive and looks to attack plays in all three zones. Most times that leads to good outcomes. Occasionally it leads to bad ones. Still, he's a big addition to Hershey and gives them a good weapon in transition. Paul Ledoux also will jump in the rush here and there, but not as often. He's got good shooting talent from the blue line, but doesn't have the playmaking vision you'd like to see from someone as mobile and offensively minded. For a big guy, he also loses physical battles along the wall and in front more often than he probably should. You know, if you got a big frame, big body like that, then you need to utilize it, and you need to utilize it well. Eddie Wachow's anger management classes seem to be going well as his inflated PIMS total have come down in recent years. Still, he's one of the few open ice hit masters and can chip a bit off the offense here and there, so watch out for that. Rob O'Gara is a familiar face for Spencer Carberry as he coached O'Gara in Providence as an assistant. He's a physical defenseman who's not really going to do much in transition or offensively. Still, he's a defensive-minded partner for someone like Ledoux. Will Graber is a bit of an enigma. He played both center and defense for Dartmouth and had a good but not amazing college career statistically. Very practical, pragmatic sort of player there. Utility guy. In watching his tape, he has done some he has some creativity in his offensive game. He's got a solid work ethic and pretty good edge work. He didn't have a lot of net drive to him, though, and I thought his shooting mechanics were just okay. I think he ends up being a bottom pair. overall, like Sean said, I think actually this is a pretty good decor. They have dynamic skaters and physical elements, and if they can help the offense going in transition, they should be the team's best overall unit. And with defense covered, with forwards covered, we have one left. That is the local voodoo practitioners there in Pennsylvania, the goaltenders. Sean.
Well, I'll be honest, this goalie room is some straight pro wrestling stuff here. It's the day before game start, and the Bears goalie squad looks like it's going to be capital B bad. I cannot look at this group and see a tandem I feel anything but sheer panic about. One camp goalie was literally from some beer league in Battle Creek. And then, by God, that's Phoenix Copley's music. He's running to the ring with a steel chair.
By God.
Phoenix Copley shows up after what looks like a longer-term stay to bail Hershey out bad. Copley's very capable backup with his athleticism and ever-improving foundational structure. And that's at the NHL level. At the AHL level, he's one of the best goalies in the league this season. I mean, it's him, Tokarski in Rochester, Hutchinson in Toronto. And that's really it for proven top AHL starters. Behind Copley is Charles Williams.
Mm-hmm.
He's undersized and doesn't have the athleticism you'd really want to see from a goalie with that frame. His results in the ECHL have been pretty good. But if I'm Spencer Carberry, I'm trying to see if Copley can play 3/4 of these games. Also, if I'm Spencer Carberry, I send Brian Pino an edible arrangement with a note saying, sorry about power play time last year, but that's just me.
Hey, hashtag free Brian Pino, right?
Absolutely.
There you go. All right. Well, we got the three main groups of skaters. Well, skaters and goaltenders. Let's talk outcomes. I'll tackle best case scenario first. Best case scenario, Copley doesn't have to go back to DC, and guys like Pino, Carr, and Maillet make some appearances for the Bears this season. McMichael looks like the future NHLer he should be, and guys like Schilling and Ledoux quarterback an effective power play that Brian Pino absolutely gets time on. They finish with 48 points. That's a 96-point pace during a normal non-pandemic season. Worst case scenario, Shawnee.
Well, in the worst case scenario, our steel chair running Phoenix ends up back in DC and swaps with Zach Fucali. And the Caps send absolutely zero reinforcements to Chocolate Town. The defense holds and chips in on offense, but without the horses up front and no big leaps forward from guys like Leeson or Snively, they just don't keep pace. Worst case scenario, they finish with 40 points. That's an 80-point pace in normal times. It's not a terrible season, but one that had promise that you let slip away.
And with both of those polar opposites tackled, let's talk the most likely scenario. Now, the model has the Bears at 45 points, and I think that's a good line. I don't think the Caps do them too many favors, during the season with, sending people down and everything, but the defense has depth and Copley is more than capable of holding the fort down. Plus there is enough from the forwards to get by. They don't have all of their top line guys like Sean and I mentioned earlier, but hey, you still got a solid amount of forward depth. It reminds me a lot of Colorado in the sense that, even though your forwards are called up to either the taxi squad or the main NHL parent club, you're still going to survive and maybe even in some instances thrive, dare I say.
They do have a pretty favorable schedule as the model likes them over the, three teams they play by small but still steady margins in each game. So I think there's a good chance for them to do well here.
All right. Yeah, and with that, that's the Hershey Bears. That's our season preview for them and what we predict is going to happen. Next up is going to be the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins. But first, we're going to take a brief break so that we can get some advertisements in here and keep the lights on in the Calder Farmstead household, as it were, in the barn, as it were. There we go. Well, we'll be right back. Stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. Just some advertisements real quick. Like I said, got to pay the bills. And we're back from break. We tackled the Hershey Bears and their season preview. And now we're going to talk about their bitter rivals, the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins. Now the Penguins, their head coach is going to be J.D. Forrest. He takes over from Mike Vellucci, who took an assistant coaching position with the Pittsburgh Penguins. So J.D. Forrest, of course, as always happens in the AHL, the assistant coach ascends to the head coaching position. Almost always. It's not a foregone conclusion, but Sean and I have talked about that a little bit. There's a little bit of a depth chart, as it were, in the coaching tree. So
who wants to do a job hire and interview candidates and find the right guy? It's just, we have another guy right here. We're gonna just plug him right in.
Yeah, he's in the system. Why not? He knows the system rather. So
the call is coming from inside the house.
Oh, that was a nice little reference there. All right. Regular season record for 1920 is 29, 26, 3-5. That's good for fifth. I say good. That's meh for fifth in the Atlantic Division last year. Affiliation for 2021, of course, the Pittsburgh Penguins, like I mentioned, the NHL, and the Wheeling Nailers, the longest running ECHL franchise still in its current market. Little fun fact there. So they've got the NHL and the ECHL affiliations going on this year, and they have 4 opponents spread out over 32 games scheduled this season. Binghamton, the Devils, they play 6 times. The Hershey Bears, like we mentioned earlier, they play them 10 times. Lehigh Valley Phantoms, that wonderful in-state rivalry, 10 games there. And the Syracuse Crunch, they will be playing 6 times. So just slightly more spread out than the Hershey Bears schedule, but still, you've got pretty much the same opponents that you're playing, aside from Syracuse. All right, and with that tackled and covered, we're going to be talking about the forwards group for the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins, and I'll tackle that as well. All righty, so Freddie Hockey and Anthony Angelo seem unlikely to come back to the Coal Capital after making the Pittsburgh Penguins taxi squad out of camp. Sam Militek was placed on IR with an undisclosed injury, so your guess is as good as mine if or when we see him this year. Should he get on the ice, he'll be thrust into a top role in Wilkes-Barre Scranton, as he'll likely be thrust into top minutes, as behind him isn't a ton. Militek has some good skills and is a jack of all trades, but he doesn't have any one thing that stands out. Josh Curry was Bakersfield leading scorer last season, but, Bakersfield couldn't exactly score a whole lot last season. He's good in transition from his defensive end, but his ability to turn rush chances into goals leaves me wanting more. He has okay puck skills and is an average skater, but as a second liner, I think he can contribute. Not being the guy like he was in Bakersfield to score all the points, he'll definitely make a contribution in Wilkes-Barre Scranton. Jordy Bellarive is well-rounded and was good. He has some good skating ability and puck skills, but his playmaking vision is his best asset. He competes hard and had an okay rookie season on a not very good team. I think with some more ice time, he could make some gains, but I don't see him as a guy the Pens send to the AHL All-Star Classic, or at least the hypothetical AHL All-Star Classic this season. Still, he has a good shot, and he's only 21, so there is time for development, for sure. Tim Schaller looks to be on a tryout, but if the Pens want to have a chance this season, they will keep him around for sure. Schaller has 276 games of NHL experience and actually has an offensive skill in moments that he stays out of the penalty box. So there's that. Schaller has a good shot and the skills to attack the inner slot for the Baby Pens this season. Jordan Nolan brings a rare Stanley Cup ring into the room, and his physical presence, he can use it to make some moves on offense, but he often takes head scratching penalties, obviously like Schaller, got to stay out of the box to make an impact on the score sheet, so that kind of balances out his effectiveness or lack thereof in regards to him being in the box. Michael Jolie is a person that I'm pretty familiar with, and he's had some good years with the Colorado Eagles dating back to their ECHL days. The fact that he maintained a fourth line presence with the AHL iteration of Colorado for not 1, but 2 seasons with No assignments at all to ECHL Utah, mind you, after an extensive ECHL career. I think that speaks volumes of his point support. The 5'11 sniper splits his goals and assists fairly consistently. If you look at his years and, just look at him on the ice, he's a pretty well-balanced player. He could be good for half a point per game average this year. Kyle Olsen seems like he's bounced around a bunch, and he's had a lot of tryouts on a lot of teams, and all of whom praise for his speed. He's got a good 200-foot game, work ethic, and overall just a good hockey IQ. He's scrappy and gets in the thick of things too, but I think his skill level falls just shy of a top 6 AHL potential. Radim Zohorna is a towering power forward who had a breakout year in the Czech Republic in 2021 thus far. He has good hockey sense and uses his size well, but in all honesty, he's another in a long line of late blooming European lottery tickets. Some of those lotto tickets turn into Artemi Panarin. Some turn into Sergei Platnikov. So Zohorna has size and some skill. We'll see what the numbers come up with in regards to his lottery ticket, as it were. Now, let me tell you about a guy named Jonathan Gruden. And I'm not talking about the John Gruden of the Las Vegas Raiders. I don't know why I went a little North Dakota at the end there, but that was the best John Gruden I could give you. But Jonathan Gruden, the hockey player, he's a reliable defensive-minded first forward. He's likely to be the Penguins' best penalty killer this season. And if he gets on a line that has chemistry with it, he could chip in some offense, but he won't be able to generate it himself. He's got to have some support around him. He's definitely that kind of skater. Jan Drogs, I think, is a lot better than what we saw last season. He has a pretty good shot, good puck skills, and good skating speed. His puck management was poor and he'd get lost at times, but I think he has the raw tools you need to be a good AHL player. So that's the forwards for the Baby Pens, Wilkes-Barre, Scranton. Let's talk defense. Sean with the blue liners.
Well, if P.O. Joseph comes back and plays more than a cup of coffee in Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, I will be absolutely shocked. He's looked every bit like an NHL defenseman by and large in his games in the show so far. Assisting on a game winner by Sidney Crosby in overtime over the Rangers. He has really looked the part there. And if they send him back, it's going to be that he, did something very stupid to earn it, because his on-ice play has been fantastic. Without him, well, yeah. Cam Lee's a good skater. He's got a good hockey IQ, makes clean exit passes under pressure, and has solid work ethic. His puck skills are just okay, and his shot isn't anything special, but he's enough to be a respectable bottom 4 defenseman in the AHL. Every team needs those. Will Riley is a defensive-minded defenseman. But that's really it. I expect him to be above average in his own end, but he lacks the puck skills and skating speed to make an impact really anywhere else on the ice. Jesper Lindgren's a smart puck mover who skates well, knows how to maintain possession and get the transition started. He's taken steps forward in his development each year, so we'll see if this is the year he looks like a middle pair AHLer, but I having seen him, he can definitely be a frustrating player to watch. John Lizotte has a very physical brand of hockey, which is not very surprising, as he was a linebacker all throughout high school football. He has some offensive upside, but lacks a dangerous shot and doesn't really have that attacking mentality on offense. He prefers to kind of sit back and pick up some safe outlet passes instead of trying to force defenders, create seams, and really put the puck into dangerous places. Josh Mescalco has a good hockey IQ and vision, but doesn't have the skating to follow through it most times. His game is physical and grinding along the boards, but he makes good, clean exit passes and has a hard shot. I think he struggles in the beginning in a short and weird year, but down the road, I think he might be able to be someone for the Baby Pens. So this defensive group as a whole, there are a lot of good pieces, but they seem to lack a do-it-all kind of guy on the blue line that I can point to and be like, that's a top pair AHL defenseman. It's not a great thing in this division, or in any division really, but there's a lot of forward depth in this division this year, And if you don't have some D-men who can step up and make plays on your top pairing, who are going to be playing 24, 25 minutes a night, you in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Cece, talk voodoo to me.
Talk voodoo to me. Well, it's not looking great here, to be quite honest. Remember the offseason when Max Lagasse signed and everyone took a big exhale of relief? Yeah, DeSmith and Yari were gone, but there was hope in net. So, with that said, which Shane Starrett do the baby Penguins get? The 18-19 Starrett, who looked very much the part of a top AHL starter and led the Condors to a playoff series win? Or the 1920 Starrett, who is bad on a bad Condors team? Starrett has the frame and the athleticism to be successful, but I don't think of him as being a reliable goaltender for this season. Emil Larmy has a lot of great tools. He reads the play well. He has some great athleticism, good positioning, etc. He's a smaller goalie rather, and plays incredibly aggressively, which helps him at times. But it also can burn him, as tends to happen with the more aggressive goaltenders. When he's on, And his A game, I like. His B game, though, I mean, there's a big disparity. B game, it's more like a C- game. And that definitely concerns me. So the voodoo practitioners there in Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, it's a little bit of a cause for concern.
Yeah, and that's reasonable. I did just have a thought that I think is interesting. So Emil Larmy's game reminds me a lot of Jonathan Quick in the aggressive and athleticism-based game. And one of the things that made Quick so effective in it is that his defenseman knew that he was going to come way out on the top of the crease and do crazy things, but that he had the athleticism to get back, and they managed to stay out of his way so that he wouldn't run into them when he was out there doing John Quick things. And that's something that's a communication skill you need to have between goalie and team in front of you. And the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins have a dude who played with Jonathan Quick in those days, which just luck would have it. That's Jordan Nolan. So now this is maybe playing a little galaxy brain here, but the idea that maybe when Larmy is in net and plays that wild style that he needs, his team to stay in front of him, that you could see Nolan kind of try and facilitate some of that communication to help keep guys out of his way when he tries to do John Quick things. Just like I said, probably a galaxy brain thought, but one worth bringing up.
Well, galaxy, big, humongous galaxy. Sorry, I couldn't help myself.
All right, let's talk outcomes for this Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins team here.
Sure, let's do it. Go for it, Sean. Best case scenario, my friend.
Best case scenario, guys like Angelo, P.O. Joseph, and Freddie Hockey return from the Steel City and provide much-needed offensive support. Sam Militek finds, good health in a pandemic and jumps back into the lineup. 18-19 Shane Starrett enters the chat, and Jesper Lindgren makes Leaf Nation feel stupid for letting him walk. They finish with 37 points. That is an 83-point regular season. Best case scenario.
All right. Now, the yin to Sean's yang, or the yang to Sean's yin. Take your pick. Worst case scenario. Not only do those guys not come back to Wilkes-Barre Scranton, Josh Curry sees time away too. The defense looks slow and never clicks. 2019-20, Shane Starrett enters the chat, and Emil Larmy makes some highlight reel saves. You might see him on SportsCenter, but he can't string together solid performances. They finish with 29 points. That's a 65-point season in a normal regular season, which isn't good at all, really.
Very bad.
Very bad. Very bad.
So let's talk most likely scenario. Unfortunately, I have to play Debbie Downer here. I think it's closer to the worst case. The model has them projected for 31 points, and that seems about right to me. I don't think Angelo or Freddie Hockey make more than a cameo appearance, and P.O. Joseph coming back looks like a pipe dream to me. And the defense is just a lot of bottom four guys with no clear-cut top pairing guys to play big minutes. The goaltending is not good looking on paper, and yes, goaltending is voodoo. We never know which Shane Starrett will show up on any given night or given season. But I'm inclined to agree with the model on 31 points. That is I believe, a 71-point pace.
Okay, which, yeah, you're definitely on the outside looking in postseason wise for playoffs. But as we've mentioned before, there's going to be a weird modified playoffs is what the rumor floating around for the AHL is. So yeah, I mean, this might just be a kind of a glorified scrimmage of a year.
I apologize. That is a 69-point pace season. So at least that's nice.
At least that's nice. Nicely done, sir. Nicely done. Well, that's it for Hershey and Wilkes-Barre Scranton. But before we get to the outro and start to tell you where you can subscribe and find us on social media, Sean's got a little bit of a kind of a closing remark on the 2020-2021 hell of a long AHL offseason. And by God, like you said at the beginning of the show, Sean, and I gave you a little smile because I'm trying to contain my excitement here and not, do the happy dance. But the AHL season, Friday, February 5th, when this episode comes out, it is upon us. And like I said, Sean's got some parting thoughts for the offseason and some introductory thoughts for the coming regular season.
So this upcoming season, I think, is going to be, everyone knows it's going to be a weird one. That's not breaking news. Breaking news, guys. This is going to be crazy.
Oh,
but I think the effects of the offseason are going to be seen very early on. And by that, I think we see some wild, track meet kind of games early on. Guys haven't been in action in a while. And while that feels like an eternity to us that we've seen an AHL game, it feels even longer to them. Timing is everything in professional hockey, and not having that timing or trying to simulate it in practice is hard enough. With taxi squads hogging good players, the gap between top and bottom line guys is bigger, and those long layoffs are more likely to affect the defensive side of the game rather than the offensive side, especially in net, as a layoff definitely affects goalies' timing more than shooters. Especially in normal seasons, too, you'll see training camps that are often more focused on forechecking and principles, and don't usually finish the defensive systems installed to the point where players feel comfortable until about a month in. That's why you see some wild high-scoring games early in seasons, and then it starts to tighten all back up around November most years. Well, November is mid-season at this point for what is likely to be a sprint to the finish. All that plus a lot of high-end CHL prospects and short seasons chocked full of puck luck shenanigans. I think we're going to see a very Big 12 football style of AHL hockey, if that makes sense. We're going to see some 7-5 kind of games. We're going to see some multiple, I think a good parade to the penalty box and some 4-for-5 kind of power play nights. I definitely think are going to be possible early on. And with what I think is going to be a weird NHL season, and we're going to see a lot of taxi squad movement, I think there's also a really good chance we see a lot more like that. Like I said, it normally tightens up around November when guys start to get a feeling of where they're supposed to be on defense and how the system works. I think that period goes on a lot longer. And I think we see wild games for most of the season, which as an observer of hockey, it's a lot more fun.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a bit of a cluster in that regard. And, even though some teams in their interdivisional play have, iced some preseason games, or at least taken the ice for some preseason games. And if you're in the Pacific Division, you've also iced, aka canceled some preseason games. So
sometimes in the middle.
Sometimes in the middle. There you go. Right after the second period, for example. Looking at you, San Jose and Henderson. But I digress. It's going to be a fun it's going to be a fun watch for the observers. Maybe not so much for the players trying to develop chemistry and figure out what's going on their, on their D line or in the forward core and trying to put together systems and everything like that. It's just, it's kind of a hit the ground running sort of thing. It's kind of like the NFL didn't have a preseason. But they're professional athletes, and this is what they get paid to do. And you got to develop chemistry on the fly as best you can. So even at the AHL level, you got to do it. So
yeah,
we'll see.
You're especially having a trying year because you're trying to build chemistry on the ice and not build chemistry on a cotton swab. That was bad. I'll see myself out.
Oh, wow. I'm so tired. It took me a second to get that chemistry on a console. Okay.
That was terrible. I'm sorry, folks. I'm just
you,
gonna. So that's it for the show. If you guys are enjoying the show, please make sure you subscribe to get episodes in a timely fashion. If you unsubscribe from us for that joke, I will totally not blame you. That was. Anyways, please rate and review the podcast wherever you're listening to it from. If you're watching on YouTube, like the video and comment how I can improve on my joke making. Doing so helps others find the show, and your reviews help us improve it. You can follow the show on social media at Calder Farmstead on Twitter, at the Calder Farmstead on Instagram and Facebook. Links to all of that and more can be found on our link tree, which if you're watching on YouTube is scrolling below here.
Hey.
If you're listening to us, the link is linktr.ee/the Calder Farmstead. Cece, take it away.
And I am fellow dad joke enthusiast CC Hockley, and the Calder Farmstead is part of the Full Press Radio Network. So if you'd like to hear more episodes of this show, more hockey podcasts, and more sports podcasts in general, head on over to Full Press Coverage. It's got a lot of different leagues covered and pro wrestling as well, fantasy, sports and all those lines too. So check it out, www.fullpresscoverage.com. You can also find me repping Full Press Hockey on Twitter at FPC_AHL. And at my personal Twitter account, I talk music, I talk memes, I talk, just personal account, but it's mainly for hockey. You can find that personal Twitter account at CCHawk. That's SEESEEHAWK. You can also check out my hockey writing on Full Press Coverage at fullpresshockey.com. Sean.
I'm Sean O'Brien. You can find me on Twitter at Sean O'Brien 81. That's SeanObrien 81. I'm also on Instagram at Sean O'Brien _81. Both of those are personal accounts. And like CC, they're mostly hockey-ish things, but occasionally you'll see some random jokes, memes, hot pop culture takes, that kind of thing. So if that's your speed, feel free to give me a follow. You can find my stats work on Tableau, including all of the graphs and point shares models. If you're interested in what we're talking about and what that looks like, all of that is at bit.ly/data dump and chase. All lowercase, all one word. A big thanks to Adrian Drake, who made our theme music. You can find him on social media at AD_dysfunction, DYSFUNCTION, so he can make music for you too.
And that'll be it for episode number 9. The hockey season is upon us. Let us celebrate and sing peanut butter jelly time, peanut butter jelly time, peanut butter jelly, peanut butter jelly, peanut butter jelly in the baseball bat. Thank you for tuning in. Keep your stick on the ice.